Hi, Falcons. It's Mrs. DeShields. Today we're going to talk about fractions on a number line. So hopefully you had a chance to watch our last video about just your general, what is a fraction? What do the parts mean? Today we're going to take that a little bit further, like I promised, and we're going to talk about fractions on a number line. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of a review. We're going to play Where's Waldo with Mrs. DeShields' picture. We're going to be moving it all around here. Okay, so let's review. In a fraction, the numerator, the top number, is going to be how many parts of the whole are we talking about. Okay, so remember that whole can be a single shape, and we cut that into equal parts. And the numerator tells me how many of those parts are we talking about, or it can be a set of things, and it's still the number of that set that we're talking about. Okay, so the numerator is how many of those equal parts are we talking about. The denominator is how many total parts make the whole. Okay, not the leftover parts, not the shaded parts, not the unshaded parts. It's the total number of parts in whatever that set is, whether it's a set or a shape or a number line or whatever it is. The number of total parts that make the whole thing. Okay, that original thing, that whole thing, that's the denominator. But before we jump into number lines, there's a couple of terms that we need to understand before we get there. It'll help us with our number lines. So the first thing that I want to draw to your attention is going to be unit fractions. Okay, unit fractions are when you take whatever your piece is and you find one. Okay, your shape here, your whole, is broken into equal parts. Your unit fraction is simply one piece of that. Has nothing to do with what's shaded. It has nothing to do with what's not shaded. A unit fraction is in this figure, in this set. What fraction represents one piece? Okay, that is a unit fraction. So if we look up here, our first figure is broken into two equal parts. Okay, that's our denominator. One piece, here they're shading it to help you see, but one piece is going to be your unit fraction. So in your numerator, you're going to have a 1 because it's one of the pieces. Okay, in our second one, we have 1/4 because there are 4 pieces. That's our denominator. Okay, our down denominator tells us how many pieces in the whole shape. The unit fraction is one of those. If I had 3/4 shaded in, my unit fraction is still 1/4. It's just one piece in that figure. Okay, here's where people start to get messed up on their denominators again. Okay, our denominator is how many pieces in the whole figure. Doesn't matter if this one's shaded, it doesn't matter if more are shaded, it doesn't matter if none are shaded. Our denominator tells me how many pieces there are. So I'm going to start at the yellow one to keep track. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have sevenths. My unit fraction is one piece of that, one part of my whole figure. And that's going to be 1/7. My numerator is that 1. And then this one we're not going to count, but we're going to take their word for it that this is broken into 16 tiny little pieces. And one of those pieces is going to be the unit fraction 1/16. Okay, unit fraction, one piece. Now at the other end of this is going to be whole fractions. So the unit fraction is one piece. The whole fraction is like it sounds. It's the whole thing. If you had that pizza and you were super hungry that day and you ate the whole thing, you would eat all of the pieces. So a whole fraction is going to include all of the pieces, all of the pieces. So if I look at this orange fraction up here, I'm going to look at the denominator. How many pieces are there? There's 1, 2, 3. My denominator goes down. Pardon my writing. And then I'm going to look at how many are shaded. Well, the whole thing is shaded. So how many pieces would that be? I have 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3 are shaded. Okay, 3/3. That represents one whole figure. Okay, that's all it's saying. The whole number of pieces that are in the denominator are what you're looking at. The whole is all of the pieces of the whole thing. Okay, so let's look at this one. If I look for the denominator, I want to know how many pieces. There's one piece, two pieces. My denominator is down, so I put that on the bottom. How many of them are shaded? Well, it's the whole thing. So if it's the whole thing, that means all of the pieces. And if there's all of the pieces, that would be 1, 2 of the 2 pieces. When I have the same numerator and the same denominator, that equals one whole item, one whole shape, one whole piece. Not one whole piece, one whole object. Okay, we'll look at the next guy. My face is kind of in the way, so I'll go up top. I'm going to see how many pieces there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Goes in the down denominator. And then if it's the whole thing, okay, again, think about that pizza. If you eat the whole thing, you eat all of the pieces. So if there's 8 pieces on the pizza, you eat all 8. So if this was my pizza, I would eat all 4 of the pieces. And that equals 1. Okay, so in order for it to equal the whole fraction, it's going to have the same numerator and the same denominator. 2 divided by 2 equals 1. That'll help more later with whole fractions, but for now we need to know 1. Okay, so your numerator and your denominator are the same. Okay. Okay, so when we start thinking about number lines, okay, think about what you know about number lines. Our numbers go in order from smallest to biggest, from left to right. 0 to 10, 0 to 100, whatever it is that we're looking at. Left to right, smallest to biggest. Same with fractions. So the denominator, remember, tells me how many parts I have. So that tells me what I'm going to break my number line into. So if my fraction 2/3 tells me I'm going to break it into 3 equal parts. 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts in my whole section of my number line. I also want to point out that these slides that look like this are included in your packet and on your online assignments, so you will have these to refer back to. If you get stuck and you need a little bit of extra help, they will be there for you throughout your assignments. Okay, so now we're looking at, still there are 2/3, our 3 parts, but now we're going to look at the numerator. So it's saying I'm the second of the 3 parts. 1/3, here's my unit fraction, 2/3. Okay, I have 1/3 2 times, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 2/3 would be 2 of those pieces. Okay, and then I also want to draw your attention over here. This is my whole thing, 0 to 1. And what you'll notice is at the end, you should line up your 1 with 3/3. Your numerator and your denominator should be the same. So if you're counting on your number line and those don't line up, you know you made a mistake somewhere. Your 1 whole, should always have the same numerator and same denominator. If they don't, there's a mistake somewhere. And then this goes back to our unit fraction. So if I'm counting each chunk, each piece of it is 1/3 of the whole, also known as the unit fraction. So if I don't know what to make this, it's going to be whatever that unit fraction is. Okay, so now let's practice. So in order to make your number line, you want to start it with a tick mark, a little line at 0, and a tick mark at 1. Imagine this as your candy bar or your pizza. It's the 1 whole, okay, whatever your shape is. So here's your 1 whole. So when we're trying to figure out what the unit fraction is, we need to think about how many pieces are there. I don't want to go in and just count the tick marks. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. What I want to find is how many pieces. So I've got 1 piece, 2 pieces, and 3 pieces. Mrs. DeShields is not great with the tools. Okay, so there's 3 pieces. So if there's 3 pieces, that tells me that my denominator is going to be 3. Right? 3 pieces, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces tells me my denominator is going to be 3. So now I need to think about what is each individual piece. What is the unit fraction for this number line? Well, remember the unit fraction is just 1 piece. So my numerator is going to be 1. Okay, my unit fraction for this number line is going to be 1. And now I can count by my 1/3. So I'm at 0. I will start with 1/3. What would come next? 2/3. And then I'm always going to check this one. 1 would equal 3/3. Okay, if this didn't match, if this didn't line up, then I made a mistake. So your 1 needs to match up with your fraction that has the same numerator and the same denominator. Okay, let's try another one. So when I'm looking at a number line, I'm checking, okay, here's my 0, here's my 1. This is one whole piece. Now, I want to find how many pieces there are. I'm not counting the tick marks because that 0 is going to throw me off. I'm going to count how many pieces. So let me get my pen, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to think, okay, I have 6 pieces in the whole thing. So if I have 6 pieces in the whole thing, then that's going to be my denominator. Okay, I know I'm working in sixths. So when I'm looking for what each chunk of my number line is, it's going to be that unit fraction. And the unit fraction is 1 piece. So 1 piece will go into my numerator. My unit fraction is 1/6. That means I'm going to count by 6. This is 1/6, and 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 this is 1/6. So now I can go through and I can label them. So I'm going to start, here's my 0, so I'm not going to count there. 1/6. 2/6. 3/6. 4/6. 5/6. And then I'm going to check to see if it matches up. 6/6. Yep, it sure does. So I know that I didn't make a mistake there. Okay. Okay, for our next one, we are going to start the same way. We're going to count our pieces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so 4 is our total number of pieces. So that's going to go in our denominator. And then our unit fraction is one of those pieces. So 1 would go in the numerator. Our unit fraction, or each piece, is going to be 1/4. So now I can count by 1/4. So I've got 1/4, 2/4, that's a 4, I promise, 3/4, and then my 4/4, my same numerator and same denominator line up with my 1/2, all of the pieces of the whole thing. Okay, so I match those up to make sure that I counted out my fractions correctly and that I used the right denominator. I used the right unit fraction. Because if I made a mistake and I counted the 0, then maybe I was fifths or maybe I did thirds for some reason. And that is just a check to help you catch those mistakes. So always make sure that your 1 has the same numerator and same denominator. If not, back up and look at it again. Okay, one more. This one has lots of pieces. I'm not going to try to write in these ones. We'd never be able to read that. But we're going to go through the steps the same way. Okay, so we're not going to count this 0. 0 is 0. We're not going to count that one. We're going to count the pieces in between. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 pieces. If I have 12 pieces in the whole thing, that is going to be my denominator. My unit fraction is one of those pieces, so I'm going to have a 1 in the numerator, and then I can count by my twelfths. Okay, so I'm going to have 1/12, 2/12, 3/12, 4/12, 5/12, 6/12, 7/12, 8/12, 9/12, 10/12, 11/12, and my 12/12 matches up to 1, so I did a good job there. So that, my friends, is our lesson on, get rid of our numbers, is our lesson on fractions on a number line. On the next slide, I'm going to play just a little song to help sink it into your mind a little bit more, reinforce what we just talked about. Hopefully the tune will kind of stick and help you remember. Now, when you're working, use your tools. Refer back to this video. Use your anchor charts. Contact your teachers. Okay? Please use the materials. That's what they're here for. We're here to help you in any way we can. We'll see you soon, and do a great job. Work hard. Okay, here comes your final slide. Bye.
My friend if she could help me find where to write 1/2 on the number line. She said,
first draw a line with 2 arrows.
Then she sang a song, here's how it goes. 0 to 1 is the whole that we split apart. The denominator tells us into how many parts. Make a line that starts from 0 to the first mark, and 1/2 is what you'll find when you get that far. My stuffed animal can't talk, but I thought I heard.
Hey Ben, on the number line, where's 1/3?
I said first draw a line with 2 arrows, and hey, I know a cool tune. Here's how it goes. 0 to 1 is the whole that we split apart. The denominator tells us into how many parts. Make a line that starts from 0 to the first mark, and 1/3 is what you'll find when you get that far. Then I texted my friend, what's to be done when the numerator isn't 1? She said,
let's try to find 5/9 on the number line in like no time. Simply partition 9 parts from 0 to 1. Starting from 0, count 5, and at 5 ninths we arrive.
0 to 1 is the whole that we split apart. The denominator tells us into how many parts. Make a line that starts from 0 to the 5th mark, and 5 ninths is what you'll find when you get that far.
Let's use the number line to describe this pie. First count the total pieces, there are 5. 5's the denominator, all the parts, so 5 goes underneath the fraction bar. This number line goes from 0 to 2, but the fraction's less than 1, so here's what to do. Make 5 equal spaces from 0 to 1. Now the final step before we're done. The numerator is the one piece that's mine. After the first space, I'll write 1/5 of the line. Just remember this one tip in your minds. Always count the spaces, never the lines.
0 to 1 is the whole that we split apart. The denominator tells us into how many parts. Make a line that starts from 0 to the first mark, and 1/5 is what you'll find when you get that far.
When you get that far, yeah. When you get that far, yeah.
Visit numberrock.com for exclusive content, lesson materials, and more. Thanks for watching.